Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Finance This, Property That. It is designed to educate and empower financial legacies for generations. We provide you with education from both my experience in the field of finance and property, and we bring in guest speakers who are experts in their sector of the finance and property fields. Welcome to Finance This, Property That. Really excited today to have Kerry Sainsbury from Credit Success. Today we'll be covering all things credit file, credit reporting. I know that sounds a little intense, but listen up. You're going to get some great benefit out of today and also help you understand what a credit file is and how that actually impacts your lending. Welcome, Kerry. Thank you for coming in today.
What an intro. Thank you, Dion. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, good. It's really cold, obviously. You're in your trench coat. I'm in my jacket as well. What's going on in your world? How you been?
Yeah, it's great to catch up. So nearly 2 years into Credit Success now. So as you know, 20 years experience in the industry. I was a BDM for 14 years, but I got to a point that I was ready to open my own thing. Ready to...
Because you were my BDM at Prosper.
Probably,
at one stage. No, I remember you coming out, with Prosper talking about what they do, and then all of a sudden I saw you on LinkedIn, and now you've started your own thing, and I've gone, oh, fantastic, good on you, because there's a definite gap in that. I feel there was a definite gap in that market, or maybe awareness and education.
100%.
This podcast is about empowering financial legacies for generations, and the way we do that is around education. Hence why I really wanted you on my podcast, because it's one piece, this credit reporting stuff is becoming more prominent now, right?
Oh, and you're right, there is such a lack of education, and this is exactly why I opened the business, because it's normally, and I'll go back to when I first was a BDM for a non-conforming bank, I was always told, no, credit repair is tarnished. There's no actual, quick fix to repair your credit. And then I worked for a credit repair company and realised there's lots of errors that we can find in a credit report. And going back to the awareness, normally what happens is a consumer or a client will come to you as a broker and not realise there's an issue on their credit report. And that's when you'll do a credit check, a credit report, and realise there's an issue. And I think the issue is that you actually should have more power into checking your credit report regularly, knowing what your score is before it comes to the point that they're ready for finance.
Yeah, 100%. And that's our process that we do. Definitely check the credit report, because I've worked for banks and I understand that the first thing they check is never your income, never your conduct. The system automatically checks the credit file, for ID to match the right person, but then also, is this person creditworthy? So regardless of how much you earn or how good your conduct is or how much cash you have, it's almost irrelevant at times, isn't it?
And it's more it's evolving more and more over the years. Being in the industry 20 years, we just, the credit reporting system was just negative data where you just see the default, whereas now comprehensive credit reporting's come in. So we've got repayment history information, we've got ATO debts starting to come onto the credit reports. The other thing I really wanted to mention is that there's not just Equifax now. So I know some of the majors are starting to use all three credit reporting bureaus.
Okay.
And all three don't link up, which is so crazy. So you could have an issue on the Alien and not Equifax or vice versa. So it's super important to I guess, be aware of that if you do maybe have an issue on Equifax or have some bills that may have not been paid due to a life event, to check Alien and Experian as well.
Oh, okay. So that's the three: Equifax, Alien, and Experian. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I've heard of Equifax and Alien, but never
Experian as well.
Are they a little bit small, or just ones that not used as frequently?
Yeah, so Equifax would be the most popular, most common, and then we've got Alien and then Alien and then Experian is the next one down. But I've got, and maybe we can put these notes on this podcast, but I've got the free websites that you can check yourself as well. So,
okay, so it's accessible to everyone.
Yes.
So your credit report is accessible to if you should you wish to choose to get it?
So every 3 months with Equifax, the website's www.mycreditfile.com.au, you can check it for free yourself every 3 months.
Okay.
If you really want to go to the next level, you can do like a subscription service for $15 a month, and then you get notifications. But for 3 months should be okay.
Yep.
You can do it for free, and I think it's building the awareness, right, that you can actually check this yourself instead of hoping, that it's not on, questioning, do I have a clear credit score? What's my credit score?
Yeah. Okay, so all right, let's put this to you. I've gone and checked my credit file.
Yeah.
And okay, what am I looking at? What's on a credit file? Like what am I, apart from there's a big number at the top?
Yes.
Well, I know there's a big number because I look at credit files all the time.
Yeah.
But for someone that's never picked it up, what does the number mean? How do we get to this? What does a good credit file look like? What am I looking at?
And it can be quite overwhelming. So it's a really good question because there's so many algorithms behind your credit report. It depends. So basically, you've got a credit score from 0 to 1200. 1200 is great. You're laughing. For a lender, you need roughly, and you're the broker, you're the expert, 650?
Yeah, 600's good. Some lenders prefer, depending on the type of lending you're doing, 700 plus. But again, there's enough mitigants there to go around. But yeah.
But anything sort of under that, let's say 600 mark, is when it gets a bit scary for finance. Correct. And in terms of how those algorithms work and what you need to be careful of, each time you shop around for finance, it plants an inquiry.
Yep.
Personal loan, credit card, car loan, short-term loan, buy now, pay later accounts, which I know that we definitely need to touch on.
Yes.
Each inquiry affects your credit score by 50 to 150 points.
Okay.
Which is huge, right?
Yep.
Because realistically, you only have sort of 1,200 points every 5 years because those inquiries last 5 years as well.
Yeah, okay. Because I had one of my clients, which I, funnily enough, sent to you guys, and he actually had a really good experience going through.
Yeah,
he's been applying. They'd had a lot of applications for credit, but it was the same application number just being pushed through. So he had 5 on the same, and that's why their credit score was. I mean, there's other stuff on there, but it was 5. And he goes, I wasn't even buying a car. I didn't even know this was happening.
Yeah, that is changing in the industry. Soon we will be able to shop around more, and lenders will accept it doesn't stamp it, what's it called, an access seeker.
Yep.
But at the moment, every time a client shops around and ticks that privacy consent, it can sort of create or I guess bring that score down by 50 or 150. With your client, though, that had the 5 inquiries, if there's double ups and errors, we can get those removed.
Yep. Okay.
And that would instantly bring the score up.
By about 50 to 100 points, basically.
Yeah, roughly. Again, it depends on those algorithms.
Yeah.
Each credit report individually is different. So inquiries affect the score. Then we also have the repayment history information.
Yes, because that's really changed. That's one of the big changes, the comprehensive credit reporting that's come in. A lot of the major banks have signed on to it. The major credit card institutions have signed on to it. Not everyone's on it. But that's
changed the industry,
it's
hasn't
changed
it?
the industry. And you've got open banking coming up soon as well. So there's really no, Heidi, you've got to have your affairs in order, right?
Everything now is basically your credit report, as you said before, is first.
Yeah.
That needs to look amazing and have a great credit score for finance. So then we've got the late payments. So RHI for most of those debts is reported the last 24 months.
Yeah.
You have a grace period of 14 days, but you need to communicate with the creditor in terms of that grace period. And also if it's going to be late, then you have a couple of late payments. That's also going to affect the score, which which can happen to anyone now as well. We see it happen where it's a divorce, for example, or a separation where the ex-wife was paying the debts prior, and then it was in the husband's name, for example, and then the money was sitting in an account, but the direct debit didn't work out or something like that. So it can happen quite easily where a couple of payments are missed accidentally and can really impact.
Yes, I've had a few of those.
Have you?
Because now then they're trying to get the house in their name, and then they've got this bad credit in, the repayments haven't been made. They don't look too favourably, but I guess with a good story and things like that, banks can make a conscious decision whether they want to take that up or not as well.
Yeah,
But I never
yeah.
submit the application without actually checking with, like doing a pre-credit, getting it to a credit assessor,
That's
or
awesome.
the BDM. And they're quite helpful and they're understanding, and they really do guide you through that process, but it is tough. It's hard to explain.
I saw you just made me think about. I saw one of those little reels on Instagram or Facebook last night, and it was two people on an escalator. One had gone to the bank, and one had gone to the brokers, and like the escalator was slower
Yeah.
than not going with their broker. And it just makes me realize, like, as in terms of the broker market, that you're able to do these checks before
Yep.
the credit report is affected, right?
Yeah.
Like, as you just said, you're looking at that credit report. You don't take a hit on that credit report as a broker.
correct.
You're doing a soft check.
Yeah.
And then you're doing that research with the BDMs.
Yep.
And so it's, it's
easy. Well,
yeah.
it just comes back to that client I sent you, because their situation was they had 3 loans with a bank, and they had issues with their credit file because of all these hits on it. The
Yeah.
amount of applications, and I just said to them, guys, for me to
No.
go do this will take me a lot longer. If you just go straight back to your bank, so I've educated them and say this. And this is why you're doing it. You're not increasing your loans. You're just trying to amalgamate the loans. I don't even know why you've got 3 loans. So in the first place, she goes, oh, that's how it was set up. And I go, yeah, cool. Amalgamate each loan. You're not borrowing anymore. It's the same. I can tell you that you can borrow. The borrowing capacity is there to set this up. So there's no issue. So I've done that, educated. I checked in with them last night.
Oh,
And he goes, thank you so much. We've got now 1 loan repayment, right, without really smashing our credit file and applying and getting declined. And now we've got guidance from the team at Credit Success, which is your team,
Awesome.
to just check and, go and get some of these applications removed, these inquiries removed.
And I think it's just a lack of education. And as I said, that's the reason why the business was created, because there is such a lack of education. I wish, I guess my end goal as well is to be able to create some sort of mandatory course in schools or unis or TAFEs that we all have to go through to know how important it is to protect your credit score, what to do, what to do in terms of protecting that credit score and for finance.
Yeah.
Because I find we all, and I've been through it myself, we all have to learn through the hard way of making mistakes for finance, because there's no education around in terms of what to do.
Yep, and that's the number one reason. Well, one of that around my vision about why I wanted to get into and do what I want to do is empowering financial legacies for generations.
That's awesome.
But that starts generations, spans lifetimes, right? So you're right. There's an absolute missing key in schools. There's not enough of that education. No one really knows what a credit file is. When I was in the bank and I was started out as a lender, people are like, oh, well, how am I going to get a loan? I've never had a credit card. Well, you don't really need a credit card to get a credit. Well, you kind of do, right? But you don't. You're not going to have a hit on your credit file, but you have a credit file.
If you Google how to improve my credit score, it actually tells you to go and get further credit.
Yeah.
Because it's the US guidance, which our credit reporting system is so different. So I have that question all the time.
Yeah.
Should I go and get more credit and pay it on time to then improve my score? No, don't have, just have necessary, the necessary credit you need,
Only apply for credit when you need it.
Yeah.
Right. And speak to a broker or speak to someone. You don't need to submit applications if you have that guidance and understanding going, oh, these are the consequences of submitting an application. It's just having that trusted advisor behind you, right? And guide you through the process. I've seen it. It's so many times. It's like, oh, why'd you get that credit card? Oh, just to have just to get a credit file.
Just to have a credit file.
It's in that younger generations. This is coming through. They're buying their first home and not understanding that impact. And, I had one of my clients come back to me who had bought their first home, wanted to buy a second home, and we had to wait a good 3 to 6 months before, had to tidy up some stuff. I go, oh, geez, your conduct's really not that great. Let's tidy it up.
And normally it's just that. It's just the tidying up and not a lot of, I guess, because there's not so much awareness that every payment, if you're 14 days over any payment or your debts, it will be reported on your credit report.
Yeah.
So I think that we've had that mentality for years that we, might be able to get away with sort of those banks seeing
Yeah.
sort of those late payments, but now there's no hiding.
Yeah. Well, with all the technology you have, right?
Yeah.
Making sure your payments are done on time, and I'm very meticulous on that, right? Having gone from being in a marriage now to being by myself and running. I mean, I run the finances anyway, but having to run the finances, run your own business, be a single parent, and try to make time and spread yourself quite thin at points. I use the technology, okay, I've got this bill is due here. 5 days before that bill is due, make sure, okay, if I allocated enough, schedule the repayment to happen out of my account. Has that happened already? What tips do you have for not missing repayments?
The budget,
Okay.
right? Back to square one, where you have that, you look at that's what I do. I look at a budget and go, right, these are my debts. This is what I earn.
Yeah.
This is when it's due.
Yeah.
I just don't think you cannot do that anymore when everything is based on your credit report in terms of like those late payments appear. So yeah, I have everything made sure that there's funds in that account as well. Buy now, pay later accounts.
Okay, yeah. Let's
Should we
just,
start?
Let's just,
Should I
let's
lead
just
into
get
that?
into that, right? Because this is the bane of a broker's existence. These buy now, pay laters that people just go, oh yeah, I just want to do that, and also those interest-free cars. Let's just suck them in. Oh, interest-free loans
know.
that end up you have a credit card as well as the loan.
And that's like in terms of budgeting too, like if you don't have, understand you need a secure loan. So a secured loan for your car and your mortgages. But these buy now, pay later accounts and these unsecured loans, if they're on higher rates, that's when that can really throw your budget out, right?
Yep.
Because that's all these little accounts and you can lose track of those main accounts that need paying and sort of have all those little accounts that can mess those budgets up. So we see a lot where these buy now, pay later accounts, there's no awareness again, which is super frustrating. So consumers will take out three $200 buy now, pay later accounts
Yeah.
and purchase in things before the money comes in, which again can cause issues with that budget. But it also can affect your credit score. So each buy now, pay later account, so say if there was three $200 accounts, that's 3 inquiries on your credit report, plus the RHI is reported for 24 months. And now they're regulated. So initially they weren't regulated. So anyone that's 18 could go and get one of these accounts. Now they're regulated. So there's minimal requirements that you require to get one, to apply for one. But it can also be defaulted now they're regulated.
Okay, so then they
Right?
can charge the default interest on that.
And a default on your credit report.
Yeah.
So you can actually be defaulted. So we've got lots of files in the system at the moment where this $200, this one, for example, I'm thinking about is the PayPal. Have you seen the PayPal?
Yeah,
Buy
PayPal.
now?
It's the most popular pay. I use PayPal all the time. And then now I've actually started seeing, you can do 4 easy payments.
I think it's called PayPal Buy in 4 or something like
Buy in
that.
4, yeah.
And PayPal, they're super hard to even try and remove these defaults because they're obviously in the US and they're such a big company. It's super hard for us to even speak to them to try and get this default removed. But say for this example is one $200 account, he now has a default from PayPal that's affecting this particular customer. So, and I just don't think there is any awareness. Like you go into shops, you can buy groceries now on your buy now, pay later account.
And I guess that's, again, you've just touched on it, lack of awareness, lack of education.
Yeah.
But also currently, obviously the perceived cost of living pressures that are coming in.
Yeah.
I need to save every dollar, but I can't save every dollar because I'm literally either negative or breaking even at the moment. Or is the perception that you're breaking even. And again, I guess that comes back down to doing a budget.
Going back to old school budget. I mean, it has got a lot more expensive. Groceries are crazy, fuel's crazy.
Yep.
There's no doubt that it is harder for us all to live. But I think going back to old school and just cutting down what we don't need, especially the unsecured loans that we can try and close off, the high interest rate loans. And I know with these buy now, pay later accounts, They also, there's some sort of catch where they get a fee if the client is late, like if they charge. So they sort of encourage clients to be late
Yeah.
because there's like a $40 late payment fee.
And that's revenue for them.
That's their revenue, right?
Yeah.
'Cause, so we just, it's
So
a big
buy now, pay
frustration.
later. Buy now, pay later. Beware, really. Do your research, and do you really need it, and why do you need it? Does it fit your budget?
Yeah.
And
Can we reduce things so then you've got those funds available for when you want to do, look at those purchases?
And do you really need that purchase?
If you close it too, I think you may have found this. If the client closes that buy now, pay later account, sort of when they're looking for finance, it should instantly lift the credit score up about 70 points.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that's good tip to know as
Okay.
well. That if
All right.
sort of,
Because I really only do that one credit report. Have a look. We don't go back and redo the credit report after they close it. There's a lot of clients that we just go, right, cool. In order to do your finance, a condition is that you close XYZ down. Is that the same? Like if they close a credit card down, is that the same?
once they close it
Once
down.
they close
because
it
of-
down, once
because
it
of-
reports.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, how long
yeah.
does it take to actually hit the credit file when you close it down?
When it
approximately?
closes, it should be so they close it with the creditor,
Yep.
and then that creditor will update Equifax or whoever that credit reporting bureau is. Normally for us, once we have that acceptance that the creditor will remove, for example, the default, it normally takes us roughly 10 to 14 days. It can be 30 days, but
Yeah.
normally on average it's 10 to 14 days
Yep.
that Equifax take to update
Yeah. Okay.
their back-end reporting system.
Okay. So understand your current situation.
Isn't it? That's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. And you can go and get your own report and have a look at these and see what's on there and monitor
Yeah.
that score. Because I've seen clients in the negatives because
The
because it can
Equifax
go-
one, the electrical
Yeah.
Equifax one score is negative.
it can go down to the negatives
Oh
now.
wow!
Yeah.
that's super hard to get out of as well,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
How long would you? Okay, if we had a really low score,
Yeah.
I mean, how long would it take for that to recover?
So inquiries last 5 years.
Okay,
RHI is 24 months.
Yep.
Defaults are 5 years. Judgments are the same.
Yep.
Bankruptcy between 5 to 7 years.
Yep.
Minimum 24 months, right? Which is just the RHI. So that's if it's in the negatives, that's going to take a little while to catch up, right? To where we
Yeah.
sort of need the 600 mark for finance.
Yeah, I have a solicitor that went through a hard time. There's a point. There's a $15,000 circa default on the credit file due to an unpaid credit card, but it's paid. It's a paid default. Can't get it removed. They wouldn't. And he's obviously gone through the legal ways to get it removed, but he's stuck there for 5 years now. He's served 2 out of. It's almost like a prison sentence, isn't it?
Well, unless he decides to go for a higher rate loan, but then that's, if it's a mortgage, it's talking, 9-10% down to 6% roughly?
Yeah.
So that's on an average loan, that's like an extra, 10 or 20 grand?
Yeah, he has to in order to get the
year.
finance. But, again,
Yeah.
talking through to us, we're going to go, well, look, we've mapped it out. Right, cool. We know that this is the date it started. This is how far you're into it. We're going to do this, this, and this in the meantime for you with, because they've just started, 2 years into their practice, etc. And now we've sort of mapped it out for them. So we've educated them, we've empowered them, and we're going to be there with them, which is kind of like what you guys do as well, right? Just guide them through the journey. This is where you are. This is where we want to get you to, but we need to take these steps to get there.
And I like that our business is still, so a lot of people have mentioned sort of bringing in AI into our business to do quotes, but we offer, and I sort of love that we offer that 30-minute assessment where the broker normally will send us the report and then we go through that report with the client. And I think that makes us a little bit different because, again, it's a journey, right?
Yes.
So we're not just looking at those quick fixes.
Right.
We're explaining why that credit report is the way it is. The other thing as well to mention is that the amount of times you move employment now makes a difference.
Okay.
And addresses.
Okay, so let's
because
elaborate on that,
that's reported on your credit report as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
I've seen it as how on the right it says the key contributing factors.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
It can state there like a tick for employment moves or address moves, which is crazy, right? Which is, sometimes that's not really fair if you've got to move interstate for work or something like that.
Yeah.
But in those conversations, that's what we go through.
But especially in the rental market right now, where if you're renting, people are moving almost, trying to minimise the rent. So that's how they go about.
Because it reports. Yeah.
And I know when you put renting, if you've been renting for X amount of time, there's potential that the actual score behind the credit, the home loan application lessens as well, because you've got to put 3 years. We've actually got to put 3 years worth of your address, employment
history,
and stuff like that as well. So that does actually affect the score, because it actually talks around the stability of employment, stability of where you're located, and the ability to make repayments, things like that as well. So it's such, we can go into it.
Yeah.
It's just, you can just branch out, and there's all these reasons why. And, when people are lending, when banks or funders are lending you $500,000 to $1 million sometimes to buy a property, they want to make sure that you'll be able to pay it back. They don't want you to default. Well, that's the worst thing, right?
Exactly.
And getting, your credit file right, and understanding and getting the education, getting your budget done correctly. You've just touched on that. So it's so important. Now, you have an ebook.
I do.
Yeah, tell us more.
Just released it. So it's great. It's customer facing. So it's all education, which is fantastic. And it has little snippets of what your credit, like sort of what we've discussed.
Yes.
What the credit report looks like, and then some tips in terms of buy now, pay later accounts and the scoring system and things like that.
Yep,
so
amazing.
I'm super excited to release that.
What we'll do is when it's released and everything, you're going to release it soon. Send us the link. We'll add the link into the podcast notes for consumers. They can just go click on it, and we'll put it on our shorts and reels and everything like that as well.
That would be awesome. It's just on the website. So www.creditsuccess.com.au.
Okay.
And I'll share the links.
Yeah,
But yeah,
easy.
it's great, because again, like you, it's the education part, right?
Yep. And
the more aware that we can be, the more ahead we can be with our financial goals and create that financial freedom, right?
yeah, exactly. And this ebook, I'm assuming is for people that don't really understand it, it's put in plain context, plain text. It's really simple, easy, and obviously if there's more questions, they can contact you. How is it written?
100%. So it's got like the websites that we discussed that they can sort of go to access their own credit report before sort of needing to obtain finance. Because you would see sometimes clients have fallen in love with that house, then you've done a credit check and there's an issue. So if, it's just, explaining how you can sort of look at what your credit score is before you start that sort of journey, and then just, explaining the credit report and some tips and tricks and things like that. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's good. I think, again, that goes back to your vision and what you're trying to create as well. And I'll be happy to share that as well, 100%, because it's so important. And we'll, I'll even do a separate post about it in conjunction with yourself, because it's the education and awareness is important. Cool. Last two questions for you.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, I'm scared.
No, this one's an easy one. Can you tell us a recent client that you've helped where they've come to you in dire need of your help, and how you helped them and what the outcome was for? I'm sure you've got plenty. But give us your favourite.
Yeah. It was probably our new record this week. So a client had a Credit Corp default.
Who's Credit Corp?
Oh, sorry, of course.
Yep.
Credit Corp is one of our a debt collector.
Okay,
so you may have heard of Panthera,
yes.
Credit Corp,
Yes.
who else? We've got Complete Acquisition. So a lot of these debts do end up going to a debt collector.
Yep.
So this client came in, had found, I think it was a car, had found a perfect car. Again, went to his broker. The broker did an upfront check and said, I'm so sorry, you've got a default on your credit report. We were able to remove this default within 3 hours.
Okay.
Which is
Whoa.
fantastic,
Okay.
3 hours. So we do have direct contacts now
Yep.
with some of these creditors.
Yep.
Again, he'd still have to wait 10 to 14 days until that Equifax report is
Yep.
updated, but he was just over the moon.
So how were you able to do that in 3 hours?
So we compiled the case. So the application was sent off to Credit Corp, we compile a case. So we don't just send an email and say, hey, please remove this. And obviously, everyone could do it themselves, right?
Yeah.
We actually speak to the customer, understand the story, and then we compile a case. We're ASIC licensed as well, so that helps with that power that we've got an ACL for debt management service license in. And we compiled the case, and there was a case. So this customer had gone through a life event. We compiled that case, sent that to our contact. They'd gone through the file, they'd accepted the case, they understood the issue, and we were able to remove it within 3 hours. So that was pretty exciting to be able to remove. Normally when people come to us, they think it's something that's going to impact them for 5 years. Let alone something being resolved within 3 hours.
And that, he's ended up with his dream car.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully in 14 days or so. And it'd be great if he shared that story, because that's huge. That's changing lives. Right.
And I think normally the issue is, again, like it's don't bury your head under the sand.
Yeah.
Talk to your broker, because your broker will have will give you that guidance, and also maybe someone like us, a credit repair agency, that can potentially resolve these problems under errors and loopholes from the bank and compassionate grounds and make a difference. Not always we can help, but don't bury your head in the sand, because potentially there is a way to fix it, right?
100%. You control your own destiny, right? You can't wait for someone to tell you to fix it. If there's a problem, just go deal with it, fix it. And, for this client of yours, if you look 5-10 years down the track, or 3 to 5 to 10 years down the track, he wants to go purchase a house, right? He didn't bury his head in the sand. He's come and got help. He's got the car. Now he's building his credit score back up, right? He's going to have great payments, etc. Because you would have educated him on that. When he goes to get his property, the bank's going to go, oh, okay, well, there's no issues with his credit file, great score, well, potentially hasn't had too many, issues with the file. He's made his repayments for the last 2 years, etc. Yeah.
On that education piece as well, we do also make sure, if there's an outstanding debt, in this case there wasn't an outstanding debt, but we make sure we educate the customer to let them know this isn't a quick fix. So if we remove that default and there's an outstanding debt, that can actually be relisted as another default or a court judgment within 6 months. So we actually offer a debt negotiation service as well to let them know that we could also potentially reduce that payment and pay it off, or go on a payment plan. So he will know, I guess, now he's finished with our service, to make sure that doesn't happen again, by making sure those debts are always resolved. Because if you go on a payment plan, even if it's $5 a month, whatever your serviceability is, then that lender can't put a default on.
Okay.
So another little tip there.
Yeah,
payment plans.
so much.
Keep in communication with the creditor.
Don't bury your head in the sand.
Yeah. Exactly. Which is easy to do when you're going through a divorce or a business failure, or you're sick.
Event.
It's so, I guess for me, there's no judgment. It can happen to anyone, right? It's just seeking out those financial professionals like you and I.
And from a customer point of view, you need to be open to the feedback, right? We're seeing stuff where we understand, what we're reading, and we're trying to educate you. We're not judging you, like you said. When there's no judgment. At the end of the day, we want to give you the information, empower you, because you've come to us for a reason. You've got goals. You may need to hold back, wait a little bit, fix a few things, but you'll eventually get there, right? So great. Thank you so much. Now, I've learned a couple of things, right? 1, don't bury your head in the sand. 2, budget. Really, really important. I guess that's one way of taking control. You are the master of your own destiny.
Yes.
Strong believer in that. 3, you can check your credit report. Go do it. It's free, right? 4, buy now, pay later is a trap.
Our faces, right? We're so frustrated by the sound of the name.
It's like, I'm not going to name names, but buy now, pay later is
avoid.
A trap.
Just avoid.
And it's better to ask the question and understand your options. Come and see someone like yourself if you've got issues on your credit file, or go see a professional. On that note, all the information here is very general in nature, and should you wish to seek advice, seek that from a professional. And we do not look at your own personal circumstances on this podcast. So sort of had to get that in there. I was like, oh, geez, I've got to probably say something along the lines of that. But last question for you.
All right.
All right. This is not a personal question, but
I'm happy to share.
going through your journey
Yes.
in finance, what you've seen, etc. Either going back to the first property you made or, life event or where you're at now. What do you wish you knew back then that you'd like more information on? And what I'll do with that is, this is your question, I will actually put that on a solo podcast and talk around that bit of information so we can educate more people.
It's quite personal. I've decided to share it because I think it's super important. So it's the whole, I don't know if you've had this realization. So when you're young, there's such a push with society, right? Get married, have kids. And that's what I did. I was I'd met my ex-husband by 18, married by 23.
Okay.
2 kids, I just followed that journey. But what I wasn't very smart with, and I guess that's because this is what I thought the journey was, I wasn't conscious of combining the debts. So when we separated, I had 2 mortgages in my name and 2 car loans in my name.
Okay.
So I wasn't very savvy, right? So if that happens again, I would be super savvy with protecting myself.
Okay.
But because I was so young and naive, and you don't prepare for divorce, right?
Yep. No, you don't go into a marriage to get divorced.
To get separated. So so all the debts were in my name. So it was a very messy divorce to have to get myself out of this.
Okay.
Because the debts were in my name. So that's probably, it's very personal, but it's very I think it's big. And I've been on a couple of podcasts with it's called Split Tales, where I've explained, just because you get married, it doesn't mean you shouldn't protect yourself, right?
Yep.
With finances.
No, 100%. And, since COVID hit, the divorce rates of
it's like 1 in 2 now. It's is that like 49% now or something?
Yeah. Well, that's really great. So basically, what you're looking at is understanding the debt structure, talking about finance and your options, which actually is really great because I do actually have a special guest coming on soon who's actually a family law
cool.
expert. Jill Johnson from the Law People. She'll be coming on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. That's
it's
very
personal,
vulnerable
but
of
it's
you.
a big one, right? And
yeah.
I think in my business, we see it now where I get scared about some clients that it's been DV and we've repaired the credit report and they're going back again. And I'm just like, oh, be careful because, it can be, if you're not careful, I think don't be afraid to just set up a prenup for $2,000 or set up an agreement for $2,000 and your debt, your assets are protected, right?
Yeah. Or even strip it back, right? What we were just talking about, have a conversation. Take ownership. Don't bury your head in the sand.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Nothing will happen.
Right. Yeah, we'll be together forever.
That's fine. Let's buy this house together. I'll put in 100, you put in 10 grand. It's fine,
It's that conversation. Have a conversation.
Yeah.
Whether
and take action and responsibility, even if it's cost you $2,000 with a lawyer.
Yep. It'll save you 200, 500,000, right? So, and also your credit file.
Or you can imagine. Luckily, obviously my credit report's amazing. You'd hope so.
It better be.
1,200. Luckily, I was fine. But in that position where you've gone from 2 incomes to one income and you've got all the debt, that's a scary position to be in, right? Because you haven't got the income to support the debts anymore whilst you're going through property settlement. So
no, definitely that'll be a topic that's coming up. I've already planned for that.
Oh,
so
cool.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
I didn't know that you were going to tell me that. That's amazing. But really, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable today.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. Last little bit from us, from myself. I don't advertise. I don't pay for advertising. People don't pay me to come on this show. All I ask for anyone that's listening or looks at Instagram, Facebook, etc., is that if you've learned something, pass it on. It is absolutely free to share the information. We don't know who in your social network may need this information. Again, very general in nature. Seek personal advice from a professional that understands your current circumstances. But like I said, don't get paid to do this. This is absolutely free. I'd really love you to go and follow Kerry and her business and page. There's lots of education there. But Kerry, how does someone get a hold of you, and how does someone get a hold of your ebook outside of this?
Probably the website has got all the details. So www.creditsuccess.com.au or our phone numbers 1-800-956-694 or the email's admin@creditsuccess.com.au.
Yep. And at Credit Success on Instagram?
Yes, it's Credit Success AU actually on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok.
Oh,
on
TikTok
as well.
Oh, yes. TikTok's being talked in our office a little bit though, because everyone's on the TikTok now.
We're just doing a few little fun things on TikTok. So this has been very awakening for me.
Yes.
All the social platforms and getting involved, but it's fun.
It's reaching people. It's how you educate. Comes back to your goal, right? Educate as many people as possible. And guys, if you want to get a hold of us, I'd love you to give our page a follow as well, or my page a follow as well, on Instagram at Dion Finance Specialists and the podcast at Finances Property That as well. I'm on LinkedIn. Find me, Dion Fernandes. There's not a lot of me on there. But thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much for your time, Kerry.
Thank you.
And see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.